We start as we started, as Max Verstappen was our winner in Season 1. In the first season of the first sim I did, Verstappen won that in dominant fashion, and here he did the same. 7 wins and a 47-point gap to Hamilton made it so Season 1 was as predictable as ever. Mercedes did win the Constructors though, because Perez was all the way down in 7th. As for wins, the top 6 all got at least one, and this included a very close battle at Ferrari. As we moved down, we reached Aston Martin and Alpine. Alonso did the business and got 60 points as he helped the team finish 5th, and Gasly did the work for Alpine, getting 27 points. Williams for once actually scored more than like 3 points, and as for Force India, who had Fisichella, the first pole and podium sitter for the team, and Frederik Vesti, they finished 10th with 0 points. Now it's time for the driver moves. At the end of the year, after finishing behind Verstappen again, Hamilton called it quits, which led to Ricciardo joining the Silver Arrows. Perez was demoted to AlphaTauri after costing Red Bull first, and Tsunoda was promoted from the sister team. The final move was adding Drugovich to the Red Bull family. For Season 2, we have aero and power reg changes, and looking at the chart, it's pretty standard with the 5 teams at the top and the rest chilling at the bottom. Force India have jumped Alfa Romeo though. Okay, this might be the biggest shock ever in one of these videos. Fernando Alonso is a 3-time world champion. What the fuck? I would have slightly expected this back in July when the Aston was the 2nd fastest car on the game, but since the patch, they've been the 5th best at least, and that reflects in their real life performance. But somehow, Fernando has strung together a championship campaign with Stroll as his teammate. Incredible stuff, and it wasn't even close either. He did get his 33rd win, and he was close to reaching 40 and was 64 points ahead of Leclerc. Red Bull fell off a cliff for some reason, and with them gone, this was definitely Ferrari's chance to win a title. But they blew it, and Leclerc's 6 wins were no match to Sigma Alonso's 7. Someone in my comments did point out that Ferrari never seemed to win championships in these videos, and I'm pretty sure Leclerc or Sainz have never won a championship at the team. The Constructors' order has been shaken up as well, as Ferrari won that with Aston Martin following closely behind. The Constructors' order has been shaken up as well, as Ferrari won that with Aston Martin following behind. Mercedes were nowhere in 5th, probably because Hamilton is gone, and had Stroll been good, maybe Aston would have won the championship and achieved Big Daddy Stroll's dream. Anyway, I'll stop talking about them because we need to talk about the rest of the grid. Alpine was 6th mainly due to Gasly again, who even got a podium, and next were Williams, who had another decent season. AlphaTauri were the best of the backmarkers with a single point, and Force India have fallen to last place as development was hard with those reg changes in Season 1. But now it's time for the moves, and it's an expected one first up, because after finally getting his 3rd championship, Alonso retired with nearly 40 wins to his name. And his successor was Kevin Magnussen, because this man always joins Aston Martin. The only other move was his replacement, who was Theo Pourchaire at Haas. We've got reg changes for the other 2 departments for Season 3, with chassis and durability being affected, and it's very close at the front, as clearly Aston Martin mean business this sim. They also weren't affected much by the reg changes last year, which is probably a reason they were so good. And as for Force India, it's not looking good, and with more changes, this is not going to be good for them. Pretty ironic that Force India is Aston Martin, and yet they're at the 2 opposite ends of the table. Okay, this top 3 is crazy. First off, Norris won his first title as he got 8 wins and 11 podiums. After him, it was the 2 Aston Martins, as they put up a real fight and were actually working together. This culminated in 5 wins for the team across Stroll and Magnussen, with each one seeming to be a 1-2. They managed these at Canada, Hungary, and Zandvoort. But it's not just Aston Martin who overperformed and gave us a crazy season, because Gasly and Ocon both got a win for the Alpine team. Ocon got his at Mexico, and because this game loves a 1-2, Gasly managed his at Las Vegas. Piastri did manage a win, and his help made it so McLaren just about won the Constructors title, with Aston Martin 28 points behind. I still can't believe Stroll actually pulled his weight this year. Alpine also leapfrogged Mercedes, and Ferrari have fallen down to 6th as Leclerc just about made the top 10. Williams had another good season, but they can't seem to get above 7th place, and even Alfa Romeo scored points. Next was AlphaTauri with 9 points, and then the proper backmarkers Haas and Force India. They do need a bit of time to actually develop the car, but with no reg changes for Season 4, now might be the time to make that jump. On to the moves, and at the end of the season, Bottas called it quits. He was replaced by Vesti, and that meant that Force India needed a new driver. Drugovich was picked as Sargent went to AlphaTauri, and Sato joined Williams. In the chart, the top 3 goes Aston Martin, Alpine, McLaren, and then Mercedes. What the hell is going on? Force India have jumped above the rest of the backmarkers, but the question is whether they will hold on to that momentum or not. Time to see in Season 4. So there have been some big rises and fallers in Season 4. First, Aston Martin have receded back into the midfield as Norris won his 2nd title. Runner up to him was Daniel Ricciardo, who was not far behind and got 5 5 wins along the way. In the constructors, McLaren dominated as Piastri was a good teammate, getting 3 wins and surprisingly more than Norris. And they were followed by Mercedes and then Alpine. Gasly added another 2 wins to his gallery, and Ocon was finally decent in a sim. Red Bull stayed in 4th and Tsunoda won 4 races to Verstappen's 0 and yet still finished behind him in the order. Ferrari continued to be mid in 6th place as they were behind Aston Martin. But the biggest shock of all, 7th placed Force India. Drugovich had come in and been a revelation as the team's momentum led to a win in Mexico. Imagine Checo was still driving. They nearly beat Ferrari as well. It's looking up for the team, but with massive reg changes coming for season 5, can they hold on to their performance? Before we find out, it's time for the moves. And there weren't any. Very disappointing after a really good season, but that only means that there will be a lot coming in season 5. With the chart showing Force India's insane rise, let's move on to the next season. McLaren stayed at the top in season 5, but it was Piastri who won the title from Norris. They were very far ahead of Verstappen in 3rd, but then it was Magnussen in the Aston. They had clearly had a small resurgence as they rose back up to 3rd place. Stroll was down in 9th, but still got good points for the team as Kevin added another win to his career total. The Mercedes were consistent and got 2nd in the constructors because of this, and next up were Red Bull in 4th once again. Now it gets weird. Alpine were 5th with 136 points, followed by Williams with 129 and then Ferrari with 106. Ferrari had been smoked by a team that got 7 points last year. Gasly and Albon's driving were the main reasons for these positions, and as you can see at Force India, there's been some change. Well, first they've gone from 70 points to 16 this year, but also the drivers have changed. This is because Pourchaire is now in the team as he and Drugovich did a seat swap at mid-season. The reg changes came too soon for the team and they could not cope, but 8th is still decent. Pourchaire did the dirty work getting 15 points, but because 7 teams all scored at least 100, points were very spread out and even 10th place got 71. But you may notice that the top 10 only contains 15 wins instead of 16, and this is because Marino Sato in the Williams won at Canada. Why is it always Canada? That top 4 is crazy as well. This was a very interesting season because of the fight for 2nd and 5th getting very close in the constructors, but also because a lot of the teams scored a lot of the points. But now on to the rest of the moves. We will start at the end of the season where Hulkenberg moved from Haas to Force India, the team that he should have got a podium with at least once in his career. They took him on in 2012 after Williams dropped him in 2011. This meant Sato went to Haas and Hauger joined the grid at Williams. Sainz also retired as the Ferrari was mid as hell, and so Sergio Perez joined the team that he should have joined 10 years ago. If you're unaware, Perez used to be in the Ferrari Academy and drove for Sauber, and he had a contract for 2014 at Ferrari. He's even said it himself. He would have had this had he not moved to McLaren in 2013, and then he ended up at Force India. That's the story of Sergio Perez. But back to this, Drugovich returned to AlphaTauri and Lawson joined Haas to complete the grid. We're not getting reg changes for season 6, and the chart shows us that by season's end, Force India had recovered from their massive drop to become the 2nd best car. This should mean that Force India will be back amongst the podiums in season 6, so let's see how well they do. Well, it was just a bit better than some podiums. Pourchaire won the bloody championship by 25 points to Piastri as he got 6 wins and 13 podiums in this year. It's an all orange top 3, and I do promise that is a different shade of orange. If you look real closely, you'll see the slight difference. Force India climbed to 3rd this year, and it could have been better had Hulkenberg driven a bit better, but he is like 41 years old at this point, so we'll let him off. Moving down from the top 3, Mercedes were 4th and 5th, and both claimed wins again as they helped the team finish 2nd. Red Bull were next and they were 4th once again. And now we reach Williams, who finished above Ferrari again and sat in 5th place. Olga had been very good with 68 points and 2 podiums for the team. Leclerc reappeared in the top 10 for Ferrari with just 35 points, and Alpine and Aston Martin have fallen back down after the reg changes. That should be everything covered, so let's move to the driver moves. After Williams' impressive performance, and also because Force India wanted a new shiny thing, Pourchaire left the team to join Williams as Albon went to Alpine and Esteban Ocon rejoined the team. Because we are entering the 7th season and the Force Indias became pink in 2017, the team in this sim is also becoming pink, and we have small reg changes as durability is getting affected for season 7. With the return of the pink, can Force India continue their journey at the top of the grid? Well, they couldn't, as a new team and driver entered the fray. Russell won his first title as him staying loyal to Mercedes had done him good. It was incredibly close in the constructors as Mercedes edged McLaren by just 1 point. Red Bull went too far behind and went in 4th for a change. Onto the standings, and Russell beat Piastri by 7 points as he got 5 wins to Oscar's 3. Verstappen managed 2 wins and Ocon got 4 for Force India. It hadn't been a bad season for him, and to be honest, he was only 27 points off the title and drove well. Norris was down in 5th with 1 win, and then came the Mercedes and Red Bull teammates. Williams kept up the great form as they finished in 5th with Pourchaire and Hauger being a great match for each other. Leclerc snuck into the top 10 again as Ferrari were only 4 points ahead of Alpine in 6th. Aston Martin have not recovered and still sit in in 8th. Now it's time for the moves, and there was only one change as Gasly retired from the sport. Iwasa joined the French team to replace him. With no reg changes for season 8 and a chart that's not worth showing because of the straight lines, we move on to the next season. It only took a 1-year break, but Force India were back on top with Ocon winning a championship. He drove well all year, and his 6 wins were too much for anyone else as he won by nearly 40 points. Wins were very spread out on the grid as both McLarens got 2, Russell got 3, and Max and Ricciardo got 1 each. But there is an outlier as Dennis Hauger won for Williams at the Canadian Grand Prix. I swear to God! This led to them finishing another season in 5th as Red Bull were back in the comfortable 4th place and Force India were just ahead. Ocon got over 6 times as many points as Hulkenberg as they could have done with a good driver to try and win the Constructors' Championship with. They're only keeping Hulkenberg around so that he'll eventually get at least 1 podium. Leclerc was 10th again for the awful Ferrari, and Aston Martin have fully fallen back down as they got 0 points and even finished behind Alfa Romeo. Onto the moves, and at mid-season, Iwasa got the ball rolling by getting sacked, with Lawson joining Alpine and Doohan going to Haas. At post-season, Force India once again sacked their driver who had won the championship as Ocon was replaced by his arch nemesis. Not Alonso, not Gasly, but the OG enemy, Pascal Wehrlein. Nah, I'm kidding, it's Sergio Perez. Perez was chasing a championship and so was aiming for one with a team that he really established himself in the sport with as a dependable and great driver. At Ferrari, they managed to get Norris as he for some reason just retired, and he sacrificed any chance at another championship in favour of going to the red team. Ricciardo in turn returned to McLaren and Ocon joined Mercedes. Leclerc was tired of the Ferrari clown show and so retired, and this meant Russell joined the team. After Behrman's debut in Saudi, clearly they quite liked the British drivers. The final move was Iwasa, who was trying not to get sacked by another team as he joined Mercedes. To spice things up some more, chassis and power were getting reg changes. On to season 9. Once again it was McLaren driver winning the championship as the Australian team lost the constructors by just 16 points. Oscar won it comfortably from Ocon in 2nd, and 3rd was Vesti with 4 wins. He obviously didn't do this with Alfa Romeo, but we'll get onto that later. Ricciardo didn't win at McLaren, but 135 points was alright, but Iwasa was down in 8th with 3 wins at Mercedes. At Williams, they have continued to rise as they were now 3rd. Pourchaire and Hauger were 2 amazing drivers at that team, and they were separated by just 5 points. But the best thing, Force India in 5th. Yes, they hadn't won, and Perez had kind of disappointed after winning the first race, coincidentally in Bahrain where he won his first ever race, but Hulkenberg had finally got a podium. And you'll never guess where he did it. It was Canada. Imagine my shock. This was a crazy race and also saw Pourchaire win for Williams. And then we've got Ferrari being 6th and Red Bull being 4th. Name a better duo, I'll wait. Aston recovered from their 0-point season to get 49, which is solid, and Alpine have fallen all the way back down as they and Alfa both got 10 points each. But enough stalling, time to look at the moves. Surprisingly, the mystery team that Vesti went to was McLaren, and Iwasa lost his drive at Mercedes after winning 3 races and getting 2 more podiums in his 8 races at the team. This led to Piastri going to Mercedes, and the final move was Williams, who went to Alfa Romeo. Talking about Piastri winning the championship at Mercedes, he started the year at McLaren, and I'm pretty sure he's the first person in one of these videos that moved teams mid-season and still won the title. Anyways, at post-season, Stroll retired after an actually decent simulation, with Verstappen chasing the bag and moving to Aston Martin. Russell went to Red Bull in turn, and Pourchaire left Williams to go to Ferrari. Zhou, I bet you forgot about him, went to Williams after staying at Alfa Romeo for all 9 seasons. Magnussen then left Aston Martin as the golden duo was finally gone, and he went to Alfa Romeo. Imagine Magnussen and Stroll in the same team in real life. That would be absolute comedy. The final move was Iwasa, who tried F1 for a 3rd time as he joined Aston Martin. The R&D chart says Aston Martin are the best team, followed by Red Bull, McLaren and Force India. So can the team finally win the Constructors, or would Perez improve his performances in the final year of the sim? Let's find out. Piastri won the final year of the sim at Mercedes, as he completed a full season at the Silver Arrows. Mercedes continued at the top in both championships as Vesti was Oscar's biggest challenge. Aston Martin were back in the top 3 thanks to Verstappen and Iwasa, who were a good pair. Max got 2 wins for the team in this year, as they had an up and down simulation. Williams fell back down and actually finished behind Ferrari, and Force India were even worse as Perez and Hulkenberg weren't anywhere near the top 10. A disappointing end to what has been a very good 10 years for the team. But that's all from me. Thank you so much for the support across the last year on this game. Don't want to get soppy, but F1 23 has changed this channel and my life entirely, and I can't thank you enough for that. But if you want to know how all of the sims from this year went, click the playlist on screen which has all 14 simulation videos. Once again, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.